afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Let me get my notes out. Without reading glasses, I might add. Well, really excited about the news we're about to celebrate with, and I got to tell you, I have a few thanks to give to the wonderful communities that stepped up for our administration. I'm thrilled to announce that I am officially appointing Interim Chief Adrian Diaz to be our permanent Chief Adrian Diaz. And let's give that a hand right now. I had a great conversation with Kevin Hall from Tucson and Eric Greening from the department. And I will tell you that the search committee, who I'll acknowledge in a little better detail shortly, they did their job. They did their job very well. That they presented, in my estimation, 3 candidates who could lead a department. Made my job hard. The process was the right process, not just charter governed, but I think we went above and beyond what the charter requires. I'll talk a little bit about that. And then I'll talk about why I made the selection that I did over the weekend. As many of you know, because you are following this, this was clearly a robust and community-driven process. The 14 very engaged and involved community members and stakeholders that are with us now, they have different ideas on what a great police department should look like or what a leader should look like. Some may say, I want 7-minute response times. I want the level of investigations done thoroughly and quickly. Some may say that I want police accountability unlike I've never seen it. We want to make sure that a racialized approach, an unreasonable force is a thing of the past. And we have to acknowledge that it occurs, and we do not want it here in Seattle or anywhere else in this country. There could be some that says that they want to emphasize culturally competent officers. They want the complete morale changed. Or someone may say, I want all of that, all in one. But they have priorities. I am very proud to say that I heard that there were some robust discussions amongst this group looking at the candidates that they had. We talked to community members over and over, a few statistics. In addition to conversations with the youth and communities of color and the immigrant community, faith leaders, small business leaders, we offered a community survey in 7 languages that was filled out by more than 1,300 residents. It's important to know that we had 15 applications. That was actually more than we had in our 2018 search. That was before George Floyd, before the pandemic, at a time where perhaps the political atmosphere might have been more conducive toward what we saw in Seattle. The committee did what they were supposed to do. They interviewed several people. They advanced 5 to the public safety experts, where those assessors administered a charter required oral and written competitive examination, unanimously sending me 3 highly qualified applicants. That was their job, and they did it well. I can say to all of you listening to my words right now that not one of these members thwarted the process, circumvented the process, and said, I want this person. You got 5, you got 3, this is who I like. Not one of them gave me that information. Now, I don't know what they did with their friends or what they did on their blogs. I don't read that stuff, but I'll tell you, it never got to me. So when I interviewed the 3, they were robust interviews, and like I said, all 3 extremely capable. When I talk about One Seattle, I talk about having this kind of conversation where you can agree, you can disagree, but you lead also with listening and understanding the other perspective. That's how we're going to build a great city. That's how this chief and I are going to build a great department together. So let me thank a few folks. Our officers. Our police officers spent the last several years serving our community despite exceptionally challenging circumstances. You name the circumstance of difficulty, and they did that. We are committed to supporting and retaining them, and quite candidly, Chief Diaz is the right one for that job. Our community partners, all the way from our neighborhood voices, King County Equity Now, the Seattle NAACP. I see Carrie Riley Payne in back of me somewhere. Where's she? Yeah, she doesn't like standing in back of me very much, so usually I'm in back of her. The Village of Hope, the Duwamish Valley Youth Corps, and again, our search committee. Thank you for sitting in hours of meetings and interviews. I mean, I know that was there were some grueling sessions when you could have been spending time with your families and partners, but you put in the work. Our HR and recruitment team, Aisha Foster, the team lead, Pam Inch, the driver of the process, Ernest Stevens, Melissa Reed, Gary Peterson is the recruiter, and people from our mayor's office. I'll just shout at them by first name. Andrew, Pedro, Nina, Ben, Callie, everyone. It was a team effort. And so again, they did their work. The areas that we will focus on together: crime and gun violence. I don't have to say much more than that. We know what's happening in this country and in major cities. We know what's happening here. Accountability. Diversified responses, alternatives to police. Our culture, the culture of our department, which reflects the culture of our city. In our neighborhoods, making sure everyone is safe. The chief and I recently, just the other day, we walked down the steps together, and we saw Brother Muhammad in the Somali community. He was tragically murdered last week. He's a father of 6, 48 years old. We don't know what motivated that. We know that someone had come into the car, shot him at point-blank range, and as we continue to investigate, that is a child's nightmare. That's a wife's nightmare. And we sat there and listened to one of his daughters cry with us. And when I talk about why did I choose Police Chief Diaz? Well, they're all qualified. He's highly educated. He's well experienced, as are the other candidates. There are these intangibles. Sometimes you could just it's what I call chemistry, and something you can't teach, you can't fake, but it's right here. I think Chief Diaz has that right here. A person that I've known since he was a sergeant, working in the community. A person who will make bold decisions, unpopular decisions, but the right thing to do. A person that I know, when he looked at this little Somali daughter's face, I know it hit him as hard as it hit me, that our job is to protect her father. And someone said, will you issue an apology? I will apologize for anything that we do when we fail. I'm not too proud to do that. Our city has to be known for its humility as well. So there are many intangibles about Chief Diaz. And then I would say his tenacity. I get up sort of early and go to bed sort of late at night to get this city on where it needs to be. I need that energy to match it, perhaps surpass it. I need to be able to stay in my lane and say this person is right where they need to be because they're a superstar in their lane. That's that wow factor. That's that intangible that I think we have in Chief Diaz. He doesn't have to walk in the room. It was sort of a funny thing that happened. Chief Diaz was posing for a picture, and it seemed like everyone in the picture was like 6'3", right? And Chief Diaz says, I got to find some new people to take some pictures with, because you all, but it was that kind of self-deprecating humor that I find very attractive in leaders, because it's not about how tall he stands, it's about the boldness of the work that he'll do. And so I own this decision, and I want to say thank you again, search committee members. Now, in closing, I said this. I said that, I need to impress upon you one thing. I've spent 12 years on the council. I spent 4 years as public safety chair, another 4 years as vice chair, and then 4 years as city council president. I've worked with a lot of chiefs. Chief Kurlikowski, Chief Diaz, John Diaz, Chief Pugil, Chief Harry Bailey, Chief Kathleen O'Toole, Chief Carmen Best, and Interim Chief Diaz. As they say, it's not my first rodeo. And I want to thank all those former chiefs for their outstanding service and leadership. But the fact of the matter is not one chief in our history has completely eradicated racism, completely changed the culture. So I'm not asking this chief to do that. I'm asking this chief to be the strongest and most effective leader he can be to change the culture and optimize our performance. It also rests with me. It also rests with the community. It rests with everyone that cares. So together and collectively, we will have a world-class police department. And I want every officer to know that we will do everything possible to make sure they are trusted, they are respected, and that all of our communities are safe. That is my charter responsibility. And having said that, I present to you my selection, Chief Adrian Diaz.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, I want to express my deep gratitude to Mayor Harrell for entrusting me to continue to lead the Seattle Police Department as we work collectively as a city to recover from public health and public safety challenges for the last 2 years. Mayor, since taking office, you and your team have challenged us to be agile, creative amidst staffing issues, to ensure that we explore alternative public safety services, that we continue to rebuild the capacity of this department to support a wider net of service. And that, despite headwinds, we continue our unwavering commitment to the policies and practices that have brought us, the department, so close to closing out the federal consent decree. Thank you for the monitor being in the audience as well. Thank you for your partnership and for your trust. It is my honor to serve this administration. Second, over the past month, and more than a dozen interviews with community members have confirmed what I already knew. It is my commitment to lead the Seattle Police Department is based in community. I'm committed to ensuring the community is at the forefront of all of SB's work and engagement. And I'm committed to ensuring the department restores safety citywide. I approach this work with optimism, mindful of the trust that was shattered by the events of 2020's following the murder of George Floyd, of the combined trauma of the community and our officers alike, and of the long path of reconciliation ahead of us. Not just between SPD and the community, but also between the city, the department, and the men and women, sworn and civilian, who form the heart and soul of SPD. There's no question that the past 2 years have been difficult. Terrors in the social fabric so necessary to support a healthy society have ripped wide open as so many of the resources available pre-pandemic have been reduced. Staffing challenges amidst rising calls for service puts enormous strain on our officers, making it critical that we invest in resources to keep our officers healthy and safe. At the same time, violent crime is at a 25-year high and disproportionately felt in communities of color. Therefore, we cannot be passive. Our city requires action on crime, on gun violence, on perceived and real issues of safety. We can pour through all the statistics in the city and have the necessary nuanced conversations, but at the end of the day, we know Seattleites are demanding a safer city they deserve. We cannot stop evolving. The Seattle Police Department must always strive towards continuous improvement. And as we work towards the final phase of the consent decree, we must remain focused on providing quality police services and ongoing reform. That work will not stop. Our commitment to accountability will not stop. We refuse to accept the status quo and want to build the most innovative department in the country, from technology to community partnerships, new ideas to real action. The police can't solve every problem. That's why I've championed the SPD co-responder unit with mental health professionals, community service officers, created partnerships with community-based organizations, and supported diversifying emergency responses. I look forward to being a partner at the table with Mayor Harrell as we define and implement a One Seattle approach. I want to thank the men and women of this department for their hard work over the past 2 years and into the future. Your dedication to our city is recognized. Our city is better due to your service. And daily I hear from community members across all sectors of this city, praising the dedication and compassionate work of our officers. Public safety is built on a foundation of social trust. We are stronger and safer as a city when we work together. To those who offer their support, who challenge us, and who roll up their sleeves in partnership, you make us better, And I promise that we will continue to strive to be the department that you demand and that you deserve. No leader can do it alone. I'm supported by an incredible team of professionals, sworn and civilian across all ranks and positions in our department. I embrace the future of this department because I know the character of this department. And I know the demonstrated commitment of the SPD members who have stood by our department in our toughest moments to ensure that we come back stronger, wiser, and rededicated to our mission. Let's get back to work. Questions?
Thank you, Chief. A few little shout outs, and then I'll ask my Director of Communications, Jamie Housen, to field any questions. Actually, to answer any, no, he won't answer the questions. Again, I want to thank the monitor, Antonio Oftali, here for being here again. I don't like being monitored, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for your work and your commitment to this city under the work that you do. I want to thank Chair of Public Safety, Lisa Herbold, who played a significant role in the search. I want to thank her for her work. And we're joined by Council President Debora Juarez. Thank you for being here, Council President. I do have a close advisor and a close friend here, too, as well, Doug Baldwin. And one reason why I asked Doug to join us today was because when I was running for office throughout the recent years, he's someone I rely on for a lot of advice, political advice, public safety advice. And he is not shy to tell me what he thinks, but he's known in that space of effective, strong public safety and a commitment to community, making sure that we balance the need for accountability, the elimination of senseless deaths and unreasonable force in communities as well. And that's the voice that I gravitate to. So thank you, Doug, for being here as well. And having said that, I also recognize a lot of leaders here, too, in the department and otherwise, and people that I probably didn't mention. So thank you for being here, and thank you for the work on this process. Okay. Question time. No questions. Thanks. Everyone have a great day. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Jamie, would you please?
Yeah, Omari?
Yeah, I have a question. Two questions for Chief Diaz. The first question, Chief, is that, you know, in our reporting with the last chief here, Chief Best, we found that members of her command staff, you know, I mean, it was members of her command staff that was there. It seemed like there was a lot of times information was not reaching the chief. You know, the Chief Best was cut out by her command staff. Some might say that her legs were cut out underneath her. The thing is, with you being in this department for over 2 decades, sir, a lot of these people that you're serving with have been in the department for a long time. And that's why people want chiefs from out of town, so they can come in with a new command staff and clean house. How are you going to approach getting your house in order, knowing that all of these people on your staff, for the most part, have been in this department for a long time? My second question is although public safety is a citywide issue here, I want to give you an opportunity to talk to black people in this city, in the Central District, in the South End, and talk about what your commitment is in public safety moving forward.
Yeah, so thank you for that question. So the first question, I've actually strategically put myself in a place where I actually had direct reports to me rather than having a deputy chief in the middle of it where information would be bottlenecked. I spent the last 26 months doing that so I could evaluate each and every chief. So I'm constantly assessing that. And as we move forward, I will be constantly assessing that and figuring out what changes I might need to make in the future. So that is one of the things that will be yet to come. So I haven't announced just what I'm going to do, but for me, it was very important to do a full assessment of where we've gone over the last 2 years. The second one, to our communities. Number one, I have been working in our demographic communities in the Central District, in the South End. I have worked on youth violence. I'm still working on youth violence even today, even all the work, because I'm committed to making sure that our communities of color are not experiencing the death of a loved one, that they're not experiencing, you know, potential stops that, you know, create disparate impacts in the community. And so I'm committed to making sure that we put policies in place, training in place, that we hold people accountable for their actions, but we also make sure that we value the hard work that our officers are doing every single day to making sure that people that live to see another day, that they, you know, we put tourniquets and chest seals and all sorts of different life-saving measures to make sure that we are helping save lives in our community. And that's what that future commitment is. I will be, continuing to be out in the community. I'll continue to be out as a voice for the community's issues and making sure that we are honoring our public safety charter.
Go to Sarah Grace and then Erica.
Before Sarah Grace, before I call on that, I'd like to respond to that as well. Number one, the buck doesn't stop with the chief. Guess where that buck stops? So under this administration, we will do as we always do, as we do with all departments. We do a personnel review. We're trying to find empowered leaders, leaders who can disagree, but people who are data-based and who take the elimination of racism and who take the values of transparency and honesty and integrity very seriously. That's the work of the mayor with the department heads. He's a department head like the other 40-plus department heads. That's work that we continue to do on an ongoing basis, and we will continue to do that. The police department is no exception. What would I say to our beautiful black community in Seattle? That, first of all, you see many leaders of that community standing with me, not behind me, standing with me today, with us, I should say. That number one, our answers are found in the community. So whether it's public safety, whether it's education, whether it's housing policies, we will continue to look to the community for answers. That was why yesterday in our cannabis legislation, and Omar, thank you for being here, we said when we invest in a needs assessment, our answers on how to look at the war on drugs and how we resolve and solve these issues will come from the community. So what I say to our empowered black community is you have partners in this administration, and the work that we will do together will be sustainable way after all of us are dust. That's our commitment to the black community. Now, next question.
Sarah Grace.
Chief, you said you don't want to maintain the status quo, but a lot of what you talked about today and in the Q&A last week were about what you have done so far. How or will your leadership styles change going forward?
Yeah, so we've actually been launching a number of initiatives. SPD Before the Badge is one of those initiatives where we are bringing recruits prior to the academy, 45 days, and focusing on social emotional learning, brain development, and trauma-informed practices. But what also we're doing is we're putting them in an environment where they're listening and learning from the communities of color that have been impacted, and it has a level of history of police trauma. And we're getting that experience. But if we're hiring over hundreds of officers over the next several years, that is a level of culture change that's going to really occur. That's really starting to bring in at the very beginning of a person's career. And then the other component of it, of our relational policing initiative, is also making sure there's a mentorship program for our sergeants, lieutenants, and captains. Mentorship with members of the community to be involved. So that will be another initiative that we're launching. We've also talked about our equity, accountability, quality. We talked to this with City Council just recently, or within the last couple of months. We're launching our early intervention system with our Officer Accountability and Trust Hub. So there's so many initiatives that we are moving forward with. Part of that is the consent decree gives us a foundation of what it expects of the police department. But for us, it's really trying to make sure that we're exceeding those baselines and really trying to push this department into really continuous improvement and innovation.
Erica.
Chief Diaz, you mentioned the consent decree. How close do you believe SPD is to full compliance, and what do you think has yet to be done?
Well, we filed for noting that we have been in full and effective compliance. The next steps are, trying to figure out working with the judge and what are the next things that we still have things to work on. I think that hopefully we'll have some answers within the next couple of months. And hopefully this community that's also involved and engaged sees that the hard work that our department has done to improve crisis intervention, to improve use of force details. We've actually seen a use of force reduction from 2015 to 2021 by 48%. We've seen complaints down from 2015 to 2021. We're trying to make sure that we're charting on the right course. And so I think that'll be up for some of the decisions that a judge will make, that the monitor helps, with those discussions, the Department of Justice. So there'll be other partners in this process as well.
And I'm going to ask Senior Deputy Mayor Harrell to maybe shed a little light that she might be able to do as well. She's running a point on this.
Thank you for that. So I want to just briefly address the prior question too. One of the things that has made the chief an excellent candidate, and actually is one of the reasons that he was chosen, is that he did not wait to be appointed to chief in order to be able to make improvements to the department. So some of the things that he talked about, a lot of interim appointments might have waited and gone through a lame duck session in order to be able to say, we're going to make those improvements in order to get this department on its course. Chief came in as an interim chief, knowing that this was not a permanent job for him, came in to make change. We have not wasted the last 2 years because this chief has come in and said, what can we do to make the department better, even if this is only a temporary assignment for me? And so that was really important to know that he had that sort of leadership, even in that interim period, to move the department forward. In terms of the consent decree, that has been a day one activity, both in the administration and in our partnership with the chief. We know what we have to do to come into compliance. Yes, we have the compliance standards that we believe we've met. It's the sustainability that we are working towards and that really the judge will approve. We are bringing forth all of the improvements that we've made. We continue to make improvements. And at the end of the day, I know that the judge likely wants to see what we're doing in our next contract. So we are negotiating with our SPOG partners right now in good faith to ensure that we have the accountability measures locked in place so that when we go to say we are in full compliance and we have sustained our sustainability period, that we can do that full-throated, chest out, and know that we've done all of that work and that that floor has been met, but we are looking at a higher ceiling. So it is really important for us at this time period to make sure we have a strong contract. We know we have partners across the table that also want a strong contract, but to make sure that within that contract, the right accountability measures are in place to ensure that this is the police department of the future and that as the country watches what Seattle is doing, that they have a good blueprint for the rest of the country as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Senior Deputy Mayor.
This is for the mayor. Mayor Harrell, was this whole selection process an effective use of tax dollars and the time of these folks? And then also, should the requirements be changed?
First question, it was an extremely effective and efficient use of dollars. Number one, we needed to hear from all communities. We wanted to not guess or assume or presume what communities wanted. We wanted to make sure we heard everything. And you have to bring in experts to do that kind of very thorough process. Quite frankly, we didn't know what we were going to hear. We also wanted to hear about public safety in general, our city in general relative to public safety, the intersectionality between homelessness and poverty and income inequality and drug addiction and public safety. So the process, which is charter-driven, was efficient and effective. Your second question was, should we change the charter process? Well, I'll turn to, I'm on the executive side of the branch. The legislative side of the branch can examine that, but let me answer it this way. If things aren't broken, I don't spend a lot of time trying to fix things. That there was nothing broken in this process. The process was a good process. And so nothing out of this process suggested to me we needed to fix or change anything. But like all things, we're always willing to invest in continuous learning. So we'll do that. We'll debrief. We'll talk. What could we have done differently, more efficiently? That's an honest conversation. But at least from my vantage point, there was nothing, no fixes that I saw glaringly apparent. But again, as I debrief these fine leaders around me, we'll have that discussion.
Natalie?
Question for you, Chief Diaz. Just talk about, when Carmen Best resigned, she said that she felt destined to fail because of the budget cuts and the public backlash. Now you've been in the role for 2 years. Just talk about where morale stands today, and realistically, what are you thinking about recruitment, retaining? Like, when do you think we're really going to see those numbers change?
Yeah, so the first and foremost, we were in a rock bottom. We were in riots, almost daily when I took over. We were, having to readjust our resources really at the point where there were sometimes a couple of nights where we had to pull everybody from patrol to not from handling 911 calls to handling a riot situation. And that was just unacceptable, and we really had to revamp and change the way we deployed our resources. To today, where officers are going out and handling 911 calls, that they're going out and trying to figure out how to problem solve the challenges that we face in this city. So I could already see morale starting to increase. It is also very difficult when they lose their friends that have gone on to other agencies or left the profession, from the department, or from just the profession in general. But I think we're actually at a much better place with morale than we were 2 years ago, and we continue to increase it. Now that we're also just launched the recruiting and hiring plan, the mayor is championing that and has really helped putting incentives in place. That is that's another aspect, to try and really get numbers up. We've, working with the city council, they put it on for 3 years to help us really be able to do this, not just for 1 year and say it's done. No, for a 3-year process. Right? No. Yeah. Okay. for a 3-year process for us to be able to build it over time. And so it's going to take us time. We really need to get back to the basics of really trying to show how much this department is really about service and helping others. And so I think that will eventually help get people more and more into this profession. The last piece, we got to be able to retain our people. And the mayor said it, we got to be able to value and respect those that are doing the work right now, those that have stayed with us for the long term. And so that is the last piece that's so important, because they're out on the street right now doing the hard work right now. So
I'm going to ask City Council President Debora Juarez, would you just mind shine this thing for us? You were in law school. In law school you call on people.
I
Remember
know.
that?
Well, I got a thin resume, so. I just want to say this is part of the team. It was a lot of time and a lot of hours, but I will say this, in the 7 years that I've had this job and all the search committees I have been on, it was probably one of the most honest, raw, emotional meetings that we had, because we had to talk about not only the consent decree, we had to talk about the last 2 years, the elephant in the room, defund the police. We had to talk about the spike in crime. We had to talk about the length of 911 calls. We had to talk about the homeless issues and the intersectionality there. But I think the thing I was most impressed with and made me proud is that I felt, and I don't always feel this way, I was finally in a safe room where people could say what they really feel and believe because they love this city without being called a name, without getting a death threat, without people coming to their homes. You can say, I don't want, and I'm concerned about homeless people. That doesn't mean that you want to criminalize the homeless. You can say, I am not happy with the police, and that doesn't mean that you hate the police. But what I finally found in my heart, and I want to thank the mayor for this because I did not want to be on this search thing. I actually said no twice. And then he had Tim call me and then a bunch of other people. But I said, I will be on it if Gabe Galanda's on it with me and Esther Lucero from the Salient Health Board. Because whatever you think about those two, one thing I know about them, because they were like me raised in Indian country, is we wanted to do it in a good way and be honest and call out our flaws and be honest about it and not point fingers. We did not want this to turn into performative gestures, politicizing it, virtue signaling, all that bullshit. No. We are going to talk about our city is hurting. It needs to be healed. Great candidates. I'm telling you, it was really hard. Great candidates on paper, great candidates in interviews. But what I found to me that spoke to me, because I know Chief Diaz, I've known him for many years, is I think what we found in him, and actually a couple other candidates as well, when we came down to the three, is there's organic feel and love for this city. I want to do right by this city, not just the North End, not just the South End, not just, Cap Hill, everybody. And I like it that I had the opportunity, like with Chief Best, meet with him every week like I did with Chief Best. And we had those difficult discussions about what was going on. Not political. What do we got to do to make it right? So the mayor asked me to just speak, and I don't have any notes. Usually I'm a nerd and I have a speech, but I just teed it up, and Omari's looking at me like I'm not answering the question, but I just wanted to say that because I wanted to be honest.
And some.
And then some. I'm going to let it go at that.
I have to, that was exactly the way we rehearsed it, by the way. So thank you for staying on script. Jamie.
We have time for a couple more questions. I want to make sure people haven't asked questions yet. I saw Amy had her hand up earlier.
Yeah, I just would like to follow on Natalie's question. When you've mentioned a couple of times that you are able to recruit 50% of the new recruits this year, you've said are people of color.
Yes.
That seems like a really different result from in the past. So can you be specific about what you're doing to recruit those candidates?
You know, we have been, trying to find them everywhere. We've actually been online. Because of COVID, you have certain restrictions when it comes to recruiting. And so we've actually been going everywhere. We've actually put our systems online. So you can actually take our testing, national testing network, actually do the test online. We're trying to find ways that we can really, reach out to communities of color. But we are, now that we're launching this new process with our recruiting and hiring, we're going to be able to hire and staff with more people and more people to do outreach and do more connections in the community and outside the community into, I want to be in the HBCUs. I want to be in other areas where people have traditionally not thought about policing as a career. Because if I look at our department, we've got engineers, we've got people with JDs, we've got people with PhDs, we've got people with all sorts of different degrees, not just a criminal justice degree. And so I think our recruiting efforts right now we're doing a fantastic, but we're basically at the very, very small tip of what's out there. And so we really need to make it a more robust process. And that's the reason why we've had the investments, working with City Council to get the approval for funding, to be able to hire more staff at the city level to do a lot more recruiting efforts. And we're already on the right track of seeing the numbers of 50% of all of our hires being people of color.
We'll go to Lynn Ann and then Kristen. Might be done.
Mayor Harrell, since taking office, has your opinion of Chief Diaz's leadership changed at all? And if so, what was the tipping point for you?
Thank you for the question. Has my opinion of Chief Diaz changed? Well, that's a tough question. I don't know is the right answer, because I'm not sure I really took a snapshot of my opinion in January till now. I will say that my appreciation for his commitments that were always there probably were enhanced because we've been working together. We've made some tough decisions together. He's heard what is known as the Harrell wrath when I am known sometimes for my impatience, and he's dealt with it well. He's also I've heard from the Diaz wrath as well, because I empower leaders around me to speak their mind. So I don't know if my opinion has changed, but certainly we have a strong working relationship. And I think that my explanation of my vision on what I'm trying to create in Seattle, I'm not running all around this country. For me, I go to D.C. to try to get resources here. For me, it's one Seattle. That I think his appreciation for what I'm trying to build in this city, my appreciation, our mutual appreciation, has grown. But I wouldn't say it's changed, it's just grown. That would be my answer.
Kristen?
Yeah, so it's Jennifer, I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Chief, you talked about a lot of mental health priorities before. So what initiatives can we look for that are new now that you're stepping into this role permanently?
Yeah, so actually next week we are going to be presenting our risk management demand program to the City Council, which will actually be able to highlight a data-driven approach to potentially alternative responses. So there's still more yet to come, so I won't give it all away there. But we are also, we've expanded our community service officers over the last couple of years. We've expanded the mental health professionals in our co-responder model. We are working with a variety of different community-based agencies to do a lot of critical incident response when it comes to a shooting. And so there's more areas that I think as a city that we can actually be able to expand or build upon, and that is going to be part of the further discussions that I think is working with the mayor's office and the mayor on what those alternatives are going to be looking like.
Question for Mayor Harrell.
Okay, last one.
Can you actually on the subject of risk management demand or demand management, whatever it is, can you talk a little bit about the pilot program that you signed a term sheet for, and if that's going to be funded in this year's budget?
Sure. First of all, you're going to have to clarify what we're talking about, because I was.
Program for alternatives improvements to policing that to happen in advance of this additional work that's going to be done in 2024?
Sure. Thank you for the clarification, Erica. So a few things. One is we will announce, I'll probably go a deeper dive in a couple of weeks when I present our budget. Next week? I thought I had 2 weeks to prepare. Next week. So you're going to see, again, we've had some very fruitful and collaborative discussions with the council, because I think the council is showing leadership in terms of alternative forms of policing as well, and community-based organizations. We've been meeting with a lot of community-based organizations. The discussions that they're having right now with respect to park rangers is an interesting one, because we think that again, is a community response, a safety response from a non-police entity or people. The work that we're doing with working with even our mid-ambassadors that are funded through a downtown tax, that again, those are the types of responses we want to see. If someone is unfortunately laying on the ground and they had to sleep in front of a storefront, we're not trying to arrest that person. We're trying to get that person services. So you're going to see in our budget next week a very sort of comprehensive description in our investment strategy of this whole sort of third way of policing. When you're looking at some of the existing work under, is it Assistant Chief Lombard? Deputy Chief Lombard. I think the council and under Deputy Chief Lombard, I think they're on to something in terms of how we handle crisis responses in 911. So we're going to try to fine-tune our work in that area as well. The fact of the matter is what seems to drive the needle in this discussion is just the low number of police officers that we have because of the mass exodus that we've had. But that's not going to stop us from exploring this sort of community-based alternative form model. Senior Deputy Mayor, did you have anything you wanted to add to that, or did I?
I'll just add something about the term sheet.
So we recognize that in our work with council, we don't have to sign any sort of agreements in terms of how we'll work together, but we do recognize that there has been some historical distance in recent years between the executive branch and the legislative branch. And so it really is a show to the community about our commitment to working together. That was the reason that we moved forward with a term sheet, was really to lay down a values guideline or matrix for how we intend to work together, not just through these issues around RMD, but also how we intend to work together with some of these challenges going forward. We know that groups work better when they have a set of group norms that they're working towards, and that was really what we're kind of showing. We're showing the community that we can do more when we work together. Council has been really collaborative with us in this process, and we wanted to kind of show that to the broader community around not only how do we work together through some of these big challenges, but demonstrate how we create some strong group norms in working together, that even if we have disagreement, we will work those out amongst ourselves and not do that fighting or not even do that disagreement within the media. So I think it's a great way to show how we're working together and a strong demonstration of our relationship with council as we go through these future years.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. One Seattle.